Hello and welcome to episode 20 of Let's Hear It. Today should be very entertaining. It's one of my pals and a true unsung hero of the New York and Brooklyn music scene. It's the great drummer Ethan Eubanks. He's going to discuss snare drum addiction, which I'm sure some of you drummers can relate to, and general instrument addiction for the rest of us who don't play drums. Just some credits here on Ethan. He is very versatile. He plays jazz, blues jazz, also lots of rock and roll and singer-songwriter, but he plays with Teddy Thompson, he's played with Steve Forbert, he's played with Ivy, also has his own bands, the 41 Players, and he does a great project called Bill Still, which is a Bill Withers project, all Bill Withers songs. Also has a band called Pound Cake with Jeff Hill and Teddy Thompson, which is fantastic. He plays on numerous studio sessions, all kinds of gigs. He's produced music. He's in the touring band when they're touring for the Warner Brothers TV show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. He's also recently been making some music for a new animated series that he'll explain a little bit about that. And today he's going to show us a bunch of different snare drums, and it's going to be very entertaining, I'm sure. Please say hello to Ethan Eubanks. Hello, Ethan.
Hello, Gary. Thank you for that intro, and good to see you, and congratulations on the show. I've been having fun watching it myself, and I think it's a good thing.
Thanks, man. I should mention that you had your own show, which I think you've done over 100 episodes of, which is a Facebook show called Ethan Eubanks Bullshit Hour. And if you look up Ethan on Facebook, I think you can watch a bunch of those old episodes. And it's really very, very entertaining COVID-era show.
Yeah, right. I'm not sure that it holds up past complete and utter desperation, but we're still in COVID times, so perhaps I'm actually doing one tonight.
You are?
But yeah.
What time is it going to be on tonight? 7?
7:05.
All right. Well, tell us what you're going to talk about today. And where are you? You're in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I'm in Philadelphia. I split my time now between New York and Philadelphia. This was supposed to be sort of like a weekend getaway house, but I don't really have much of a life in New York. Some things are starting to pick up, but I'm here mostly and have been mostly for the last 3 months, which is great because in New York I live in a box and this is more of a proper home and I have a room to do music and stuff. So really a blessing that I sort of got into some real estate before this happened, and I mean kind of just. So right. Yeah, I'm in Philly right now.
Well, that's cool. I've been trying to get into real estate after it started happening, and it's an absolute nightmare, just so you know.
Yeah, it's not an original idea at this point, particularly like outside of New York. People are looking to find a place to be anywhere close. So yeah, you might have to wait it out. I imagine when the city opens back up, the market will free up outside of New York again.
Can I interest you in a dilapidated shack in Woodstock on .01 acres for $450,000?
Oh my God, is that what it's come to?
It's pretty much what it's come to. It's an absolute nightmare. So I'm glad that you have a good place to hunker down with your lovely wife. Go ahead and tell us what you're going to do today.
Well, it's like it's a multi-layered thing. I want to talk about the Black Beauty snare drum, of which I have here. It's mic'd up in a particular thing, and I can't really give you a good view of it, but whatever. Use the internet. This one's hammered, and this is a real Black Beauty, and the reason I have it on the kit here in the studio is because, whatever. This is something that I just typically wouldn't take out of the house or bring to clubs. Because I don't want to think or worry about it. And this is like almost $1,000, this thing new. And I got to tell you, I have found workarounds for this thing. So I'm not really pushing the Black Beauty, but this has a component to it, which is this brass shell. And that's what really makes the sound that I'm hearing, I'm after, that I want to have as part of my voice. It has a warm, but there's a high-end component too. So, full disclosure, I am a snare drum addict. I'm embarrassed to say how many I have, but in recent times...
Come on, now you're not getting away with that. How many?
50 plus.
Yes! Where are they? Where are they all?
Well, I don't want the snare drum bandit to come take them all away. But they're in a few different studios. I like to have them be played, even if they're not by me. I have some in California. I have a couple in England. I have the majority of my collection is at my home in New York and at my home in Philadelphia and Grand Street Studios. But Benny's Wash and Dry has some pieces. It's hard to keep track of them, and there really is no point in just having them. But I'm kind of an eBay insomniac. I don't know. I'm sure some of the gearheads out there have this problem, but to calm myself, I just kind of thumb through gear, and snare drums was a big part of like what I would be looking at before I would fade out. And if I found something that was like, well, this is priced too low, I'll buy it and then I'll move it and I will make a profit. So everything that I own is never like off the rack. It's something that maybe was a little beat up. I fixed it up, brought it back to spec, and brought it back to life, and it's worth more than I ever paid for it. So that was kind of the condition. That being the standard, I never sold anything, so I'm just up to my ass in it, and I'm really looking to fix that. Now, in this process, which is kind of like, this is the discovery of kind of myself. First of all, you buy a new snare drum and it only makes you happy for a short period of time. Really, you just the addiction of just the procuring and then you fix it up. There's really no end to it. It is nice to have a plethora of them, but you can really only play one at a time. So I'm just trying to work myself out of this addiction. And what's really helped me, and this is the big lesson here that I want to pass on, is that I would get these snare drums, all kinds of different ones, wood and deep and small, and I would all want them to sound the fucking same because there's a sound in my head that I have come to develop that I think a snare drum should sound like. And, when you're in the studio, you're making a record, okay, sometimes you want to change those parameters a bit, but when I'm sitting down, there's a voice that I'm hearing that I have come to have be my voice. So whatever the snare drum, I would just try to tweak it until it had that same kind of bark and spark. And I realized, well, this is kind of an endless pursuit because, or a pointless pursuit, because I already have 10 drums that can do this to easy satisfaction. So what I've come to realize is this Black Beauty, or this sound of a brass snare drum, is my sound that I hear in my head, and what I've come to feel is a snare drum sound. And if it's not there, I will work with a drum to try to get it there, and I can pretty much make any drum get there. I play shitty clubs, and I have to work on them, and I play, backline gigs where I order what I order, but you get what you get type of deal. In any case, I just want to say this because can be an expensive pursuit, but I've found workarounds. Now, most drum companies have a brass drum that is lower end. Now, the thing about, and this is just dork talk, there is no seam in the original Black Beauty. That means it's just one piece of metal. I don't know how they do it, probably with elves. But that somehow makes a huge difference. This is where I start calling bullshit. Like that kind of thing. If you can hear the difference, salute. But I find that I can get that same sound on 5 or 6 different drums. Pearl makes one. PDP makes one, which is kind of a low-end company. Yamaha makes one. Everybody makes a brass snare drum, particularly with a black color on it.
One thing you haven't mentioned is what company is the manufacturer of?
Oh, that's not fair. Okay, it is Ludwig, and it's very important that they get first. Well, I think actually, if you're a real nerd, you'll know that Slingerland did a brass shell first, but don't quote me on that. Ludwig made the first Black Beauty, and it was in the 20s.
Yeah.
And there's sort of 2 different eras. There's a very early era, and a lot of those are ornate, very expensive to get your hand on. Played a few of them, don't own one. And then there's kind of a 70s is where they rebrand it and it becomes popular. I think GAD helps bring the popular. It becomes a very popular studio drum.
Correct.
So Ludwig gets all the respect. They're mass-produced snare drums. Now, the funny thing about Ludwig is, right here, they even make a knockoff of their own drum. This one has a seam in it. It's called Black Magic. It's the same type of deal. You can get a similar tang out of it. This one's a little deeper than this 5 or 5.5. This is like 6.5, which is about as deep as I like to go. But now this is a PDP, I think, or an Ace. I took the label off of it because, I'm not a post, let me see. It's a PDP, which they make good stuff. And I think I got this used for $100.
Wow.
And so when I see shit like that, I grab it, and then I put all new heads on it. I get good snares. And this one, and I think this is a key too to good sound, is a die-cast rim on the top. This has it. These have it. You can get a good sound without it. I like it. It's heavy, but I there's a warmth to the tone of the crack, and that's really what I'm looking for. Now, some drums you can get the crack, but the high end is it's offensive, and that could be fun for a certain amount of track or a certain kind of music. But if you wanted to work versatility, and that's part of the trip that I'm saying is this setup and this sound of snare drum, I can work for any gig. I don't have to think about it when I leave the house. Singer-songwriter, funky times, New Orleans, or whatever. Like it has the elements. If you know how to touch it or you have a relationship with it, you can elicit, for me, any style of music that I play. You might want to dampen it a little bit. You might want to tweak the tuning or the snares, but I feel great when I leave this house no matter what I'm doing, and that's what it's really come down to. Now, at $100 a drum plus some fixes, I keep one at Rockwood. I just kind of keep them. I have one in San Francisco. I have one in LA. I have one in I have this thing, and at that price, I don't have to worry like, oh, is it going to get stolen, or you know what I mean? Like that part of owning an instrument that you love, there's a certain amount of fear that comes with owning it. So these I'm not afraid to like do sound check, leave. Generally people don't steal your shit or come up on stage, but I don't want to give them a reason to by having some hot shot thing. Like I said, for $100 you can get into this game at the used level, and that's kind of like, your sound doesn't have to be expensive as long as you can hear it in your head. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Ludwig makes another drum, a Superphonic. You can get close to it. They make a Acrolite. You can get close to it. Those all have different sounds, but this one is the one that makes me happy. It's the most expensive one. Sorry, but there's ways around it. And like I said, I don't bring this one out of the house. There's no reason to put myself through that. If it were to get stolen, I would feel so stupid because there's something very comparable.
Right.
In the world.
Fair enough. Any idea what year the Black Beauty you have is?
I think it's modern. I don't think they started doing the hammering till the 2000s. So it's within, the last recent lifetime. I mean, 2000 is 20 years ago. Somehow that worked out. I don't know. 2000 is like 2 years ago for me. I mean, it sounds super modern, but yeah, this could be 20 years old. Again, didn't pay full price for it. Got it on eBay. I don't need any of this stuff, so I just kind of hang around until something hits me right, and I'll push go. But I'll say I've been 2 years, I think, snare drum free, and that is huge, because I had about one a month, one every 2 week kind of habit at some point. And it's funny, but it's also true, because it's really like a dopamine hit, and the more that you buy, the less precious it is, and the more that and I know you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, and I like you're up there. I don't think we're 20 episodes in. I think you might rank as number 2, because in episode 2 we had our pal Steve Schiltz, who is because he's buying so much stuff, right, weird stuff, and he's all over the map with every kind of instrument, because he's in a studio making all kinds of stuff, so he never stops.
Yeah, I mean, as you can tell, the addiction doesn't stop with the snare drums. The cymbals is equally sickening, but they take up less space. And I'm just trying to, with the point that I'm trying to make with that, like Steve has also a very, when he's doing himself, he has a very centered sound that he kind of created, and it involves the Jazz Master. Is that right?
Yes.
So, like, he could probably get it mostly done on that, but as a musician, he's got the habit, and yeah, he might use it on a commercial, but could he get by doing some other shit? Sure. And does he have a personal sound? Yeah. Is that the most important part? Definitely. Do you know what I mean? Like, he has a sound that he has inside of him that the gear is an extension of, but almost irrelevant to him getting his personal vein. And I think that's very exciting when you look at a guy like Steve Gadd, and this is all just occurring to me when you asked me to be on the show, and because I don't have a real personal relationship with one thing, one item, I was like, well, how do I relate to any of this? And the truth of the matter is, like, you think of a guy like Steve Gadd, he plays all kinds of different music, but he always sounds like himself, and generally he uses the same shit when he's playing straight ahead jazz, it's not far away from the drum sound that he has with Paul Simon. And to me, it's hysterical, but that's his voice now, and it's not going to change upside down when he goes to play jazz as if he's going to play, like on a pop gig, because that's what's inside of him, and that's how he feels it. So, I'm not Gadd or even close, but I do have a sound that resonates with me at this point in my life, and it just kind of happened. I had this vision. I have so many snare drums, or started my collection because we were going to have Cartage, and they were going to bring this stuff, and we were going to spend 2 days getting drum sounds. Listen, that's not how records are made anymore, at least not ones that I get to be a part of. We got to fucking get this thing done. We're not sitting there, auditioning 5-10 different snare drums. I'm not even sure I'd want to. You know what I mean? Like, that's not making music to me.
That's exhausting work. But, well, all right. Well, let's hear this example.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can just kind of give you an overview of, like, rolls are very important to me no matter which style I'm playing. I use kind of all areas of the snare drum. So it's important to me that they speak, and they do speak with this setup on any level. Now that's the high-end tang that I'm talking about. It's got a bite to it, but it's in control. Sometimes when people are like, I'm gonna go funk out, they tune their snare drum up real high, and there's an offensiveness to it, really cuts through the music. This can cut, but it also can live in a track. So if I'm playing something funky, I don't go to that, just twerk it up. It's in there if I want it to be, but it's in control. Now, it's probably too much for a lot of engineers, so I carry one of these and some other shit if I need to tone it down for a session, and I often do. But like for me, I'm on the gig, I'm in control, I like to have that bite there. It's like an insurance policy for me.
Sure.
And particularly in the New Orleans music, and I didn't prepare anything. All three of these drums can do just about that. Playing jazz, so I'm just playing some jazzy shit there. There's about 15 levels of snare drum hits that you're going there, and I want that high end when it's time for me to like push the shit, but I need all those other ones to speak, and that's what I feel like this does. It's even. it's even, and your ghost notes are clean, and that I can say about a brass snare drum in general. Not that you can't get it with others, but this is the easiest for me to come up on. Even if I'm on the road and they provide one for me, doesn't take a lot of bullshitting to just get it in a zone where I feel like I'm in control of this thing, you know? If you're playing something... I just feel like it lights up a room. It fills the whole, you know, with a body and a warmth. It's not a wood drum, but it's got a warmth characteristic that's like a soulful kind of feeling, no matter what I'm doing. Overplaying there to really milk the snare drum for all the shit that you ask it to do. And right there, soft, loud, buzzes, open, rim shots, you know, regular things like all, especially in, you know, New Orleans music where this might be your main timekeeper. You want to have a variety of sounds that you can go to. And what is it essentially for me? It's like, how expressive can it be? How humanistic can it be? How much can I make it talk? And that's kind of what I realized. I need one snare drum if I could just take it everywhere. But I don't want to do that either. So that I kind of trained my addiction to I'll have one in every location. Even I'll just show you a sickness. Never played, since I've been in Philadelphia, I haven't played a gig in Philadelphia. That's when everything shut down. But I have a kit by the door with one of these. It's actually this one. Ready to go. You know, I got my rig and my sound, and I'm ready to go, even though I haven't, there hasn't been any live action here. But in New York, I have one too, right by the door. I got a couple gigs coming up next week. And there it is. It's there ready for me. I don't have to worry about, like, does it need to be tuned up? I never break any heads or shit like that. So there's my sound. There's you know, as close to me, my feeling, as I can get already done. And, you know, I think that there's something about it that comes from inside of you when you really, at the end of the day, that's more concerning than the instrument that you have. And I've been on all sides of I gotta have it, you know. Oh, God, I need it. And I do it with guitars. I do it with kitchen equipment. You know, it's a problem that's just, you know, if you have the gene. And I do kind of love Cat who has a guitar. Don't you love that cat though, who just has the one, and he's a badass, and he doesn't occupy any real thought. Like you had Metzger on your show.
Yeah.
He's just, you know, he's a musician. He doesn't have a ton of guitar. Like, is it fair that I have more guitars than Scott Metzger? Why? Why would that? Why does that make sense? There's no real justice there. I mean, he has some nicer instruments that I have, but like, you know, because it's coming from inside of him, and it'll translate to whatever he picks up. I have appreciation for people who's got this for that, this for that, this for that. I do too. But what's necessary to make the music, you know?
Yeah.
And which is our ultimate goal. So I don't mean to shit on the premise of your show, but, you know, I think it's important to remind, like, what is gear? And at the end of the day, if you don't have anything to say, or you don't have a point of view, or something in you driving you, you know what I mean?
Well, that's the beautiful thing about music, is that you can make incredible music with one instrument, or you can have 100. And if it's in you and it's in your heart and your hands, out it comes.
Yep.
Thank you, Ethan. A man who only needs one snare drum but has over 50. Maybe we'll do an episode on your kitchen utensils at some point.
Oh, dude. Now that at some point my thirst for gear did change to that, and I'm more. I could get more excited talking about my juicer at this point than the drums. But it was good. It was good for you to ask me to be. I mean, I appreciate you having me on the show. That I would be worthy subject, but I appreciate you making me think about. Well, what is the value of these things, and what do they mean to you? And what is gear? Because I really watched your show during the pandemic when you were giving history and stuff about each instrument that you pulled out, some context and your musical examples. And I was thinking, I didn't much think about my own relationship, but you asking me to find something that meant something, I gotta say what means something is the music.
Well, thank you, man. I've recorded with you in the studio, and you're certainly much, much more than a drummer. You always have fantastic song ideas, and you always have a way of listening to things in a very thoughtful way. And some of that, I think, comes from being a drummer, but I know you're also a songwriter and a writer of comedy and routines, and you've written some screenplay type of things, and you always have a very good overall picture of a song, and that's what I love about playing music with you, which we don't get to do very often, but we have done some. And anytime I'm in a studio with you, I'll bring a song in that I think that I wrote. I'm not much of a songwriter, but
I disagree. I think you're underrated in the songwriting department. But go ahead, keep talking about me.
I appreciate that. But what I would say is, like, I might come in with a song that I worked on a little bit, and you'll hear it, and you'll go, what if you change that chord to this? And I'm always like, oh, duh. How did I not think of that? And it's because you just have so much experience. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your Black Beauty and your addictions.
Thank you, man. Gary, thank you for having me around. And God, it's been so long, our relationship and music together. And, it was fun to see you start a singer-songwriter career,
in old age, in advanced age.
Yeah, and to watch you grow, too. And to think that I could take on a new endeavor and grow something out of nothing, too. You know what I mean? That really is inspiring to me. I don't know if I ever expressed that to you, but from the first session we did to the last one that we did, and I don't even remember, it wasn't too long ago, but it was like your comfortability and what you brought to the table and your own abilities, your abilities to listen to other people, and it's just, it was huge. It's a huge growth spurt, and who would have thought,
Well, thanks, man. Well, you gave me a lot of confidence in the early days of recording, because I remember I came in one day with a song, I don't remember which one it was, and I'd written it the night before, and I played it for you and Jeff Hill, and I remember you looking at me and you said, so you wrote that last night? And I was like, yeah, and I didn't think much of it, and you were like, you seemed impressed, and I was like, hey, maybe I'm not bad. So thank you for that.
For a guy who's been involved in music and knows as much about it as you, I feel like where all the walls are supposed to be on a song. So, I mean, for you to plug that shit in, a lot of people just getting going on songs. They'll just kind of play a verse for you, and they'll be like, that's my song. And I'll be like, well, I don't know what we're supposed to do with that. It's a tone poem, but you always knew what a song was supposed to contain. And I think your writing's only gotten, deeper, but even if it was only 3 chords, some of your favorite dudes write like that.
Sure.
You already had the walls. So I think you're that part, for your first few songs to be that decent, I guess maybe we should all start a little later after we know what the Beatles is and Tom Petty, and you knew so much about music already that for you to turn in anything that didn't quite compute wouldn't have let you wouldn't have let that happen.
Yeah.
Because you've been listening to songs as a boss, as somebody who's had to sell this shit, you know where the chorus is supposed to be and how it's supposed to lift, and so more than you ever think and it is one thing to do it and put yourself out there. So it's good for you to have the balls to just go for it and say, I have a right to do it too. Fuck them, And I felt like that was kind of the attitude, was like just you had to get over yourself more than anything. And don't we all?
Indeed. Well, thank you, Ethan Eubanks. That's episode 20 of Let's Hear It. Check back in a few days for another one. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Facebook page. And check in for more soon. See ya.
Take care.